Good morning, friends. Welcome to our homestead. I want to introduce to you the KANDI e10k Cowboy. I'm very excited to test an all-electric UTV that can charge on our solar system. We're going to be doing two videos on this unit. The first one today, we're going to do a walk around, talk about the specs, and do an initial review. And in the second video, we will be showing all of its capabilities and how it's held up over time. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Let's get going. Okay, this is a very cool machine. I've been testing it out for the past few weeks. And I do want to mention that second video will come after about 5 or 6 months. And why is that? Well, that's because I want you to have a real world test. Something that I use almost every day here on the property, and I'm going to put it through all of its paces, do everything it's made to do. And I really want to see how this holds up over time, and I think that will be valuable for you. And full disclosure, we have been given this Cowboy to test, but I have absolutely zero restrictions on what I say about it. And I don't do videos where I have restrictions, so you never have to worry about that here on this channel. And so far, this has some really good stuff, some not so great stuff, and a few ugly things. But we'll talk all about that after I talk about all the specs and features on this KANDI UTV. Okay, to start, the KANDI company has been around in the United States since 2020. They make golf carts and UTVs like this. Now, of course, I mentioned it's all electric, and it has dual motors, one in the front and one in the back. And something really unique that I love is that it has EPS, which stands for electronic power steering. This steering is smooth as butter. On this Cowboy model, which is different than the Innovator model, we've got this pretty beefy brush guard here in the front, which protects the headlights and the front portion of the UTV. We've got big 26-inch wheels and tires, front and back, and they have a really nice tread pattern. This is perfect for our property. We've got upper and lower A-arm suspension, which is independent on each wheel, and disc brakes all around. We've got tow hooks right here and a front bumper guard. Then we also have these running boards here, which also act as undercarriage brush guards. And then, of course, a full roll cage. Now you can see we also have doors, which adds to the aesthetic of the UTV. We're going to talk about those doors a little more in depth in a minute. We've got brake lights, turn signals, reverse lights, mirrors. We've got the front turn signals here and our high and low beam headlights, even though this says for off-road use only. So if you get a plate for this, you could drive it on the road in certain states. Check your local jurisdiction. On the back here, which is nice, we've got a 1.5-inch receiver. And this will tow up to 2,500 pounds, which is good for me because I do have a lot of medium-sized equipment that I need to move around my property all the time. On this rear bed, it's just like a pickup truck style. So you just flip it down like that. I like this style more than any other, especially for a UTV. Something really nice in the bed here, we've got these tie down points right here, which are spring loaded, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. That's really helpful to keep a load secured when bouncing around in something like this, especially if you have to transport it way out on your property or to your hunting location. Let's take a look at this interior and at the controls. Okay, we've got some nice seating here. It's not super smooth. It's actually got a texture to it so you don't slide around a lot if it's wet. We've got headrests. This actually folds down. You could get another person in here, but it is recommended that you only drive this with 2 people. So you got cell phone holder, 2 cup holders, just flip it back up. You can see I've been using it a lot over the past couple of weeks, and we've got some drain holes down here to drain out any water that gets in there. Here's your charging port to charge the vehicle. And then I'll show you what this switch does here in a second. Okay, as I jump in here, you can see they have the CYA stickers just absolutely everywhere. Warnings, everything. You can just peel these off. They should come off pretty easily. Okay, let me turn this on so I can show you the screen and the operation. This little key fob, or whatever you want to call it, just goes right in front of this sensor. So what you're going to do is hold that up. It's going to beep twice, and then you can start the motor. You can see our screen comes up and you're going to hear a fan noise on this. Pull this off because I haven't done that so far, and I do want to show you the operation of this screen, which is a 10-inch Android operated screen. Right here we've got drive, neutral, and reverse. Here we've got our turn signals, we've got our high and low beam lights. We have our cargo bed control. Now this has a cargo bed that's a dump bed, which is very, very cool. We have our winch control also right here. And then we have our hazard lights. We've got some storage compartments, some cup holders, a glove box right here, and of course our brake, our accelerator, and the parking brake. And to release that parking brake, just push it back down. Then we've actually even got a horn. So there is everything needed for legal road drive. Here is your parking indicator, your speedometer, and your four-wheel drive indicator. But this is all-wheel drive, so it's on all the time. You've got your gear up here, drive, neutral, and reverse, your time, your current trip, and your odometer. Over here, this is very important, this is your battery life. You can see we are at 64% after a couple of weeks, which is pretty good. Swipe sideways, and it's going to tell you your battery status, which is very important, and your motor status. It'll tell you your operating system, and for those who've got like a BMS, they call it BMU, and your motor control unit right here. And if you go this way, it'll tell you it's discharging, but it doesn't stay on the screen unless you are actively charging the unit. This is an Android, of course, so you can swipe up from the bottom of the screen, push the circle. That gets you to settings. If you go to KANDI, you go back to where we were before. So flip it up or swipe up and go to settings. Then you can go in here and change whatever you need to change. And then of course, we've got charging ports for whatever you need. It's got one USB and one PD. I'm not sure what that stands for, but looks like it's mini USB instead of micro. Okay, something else on here that I've got to talk about is the backup camera. When you do put it in reverse, you're gonna get a loud, annoying beep. I get the safety factor of that, but it is annoying out here on the property. I wish there was a way to disable it. So we're gonna turn on reverse. We're gonna beep, but this backup camera is extremely handy, especially since I can't see the hitch on this. And you can see it's gonna direct me back to my equipment. It's got the green, yellow, and red backup lines. So this dump cart is rated for 441 pounds. You can operate it from here or on the dashboard. This is going to be incredibly handy for a homestead like mine, where I'm always moving around dirt, wood chips, rocks, logs, you name it. It's got a nice, slow, smooth operation to it. With that dump bed up, you can see some of the internals for this. We've got our hydraulic ram, we've got our rear motor. For the batteries in this has three 25-volt batteries totaling 75 volts. And those combined together have an 11.2 kilowatt-hour capacity. That's actually pretty big, especially for a UTV of this size. So having a 75-volt battery in this is going to get you a lot of power. And that's what the 10 stands for in the designation of this UTV, E10k, 10,000 watts of power. And I can tell you the throttle response on this is very quick. If you push that pedal, you're going. And the speed on it is very fast, 40 miles an hour, and you get there very quickly. So if you're out on a long trip, off-roading, or you need to get to the back of your property quickly, this will do it in a hurry. This can charge from either 120 volts or 240 volts. The power cord that they give you has an adapter on it for either. And to charge this, it's going to take about 8 hours at 120 volts. But if you connect it via that 240 volt plug, it should take theoretically half that time. Now, I know you're wondering about range, and that will always have an asterisk next to it. But the rated range on this is 50 miles. That battery can only be discharged down to 20%. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery, and 80% depth of discharge is what they recommend. But that's pretty much all lithium iron phosphate batteries. Let's talk about that size. It's 112 inches long, almost 74 inches tall, and 63 inches wide. And it weighs about 1,764 pounds, which is actually pretty heavy. So that gives you an idea of what you need to tow it anywhere. And hopefully that heaviness translates into ruggedness. And the nice thing about having these 26s on here is that we have 9.8 inches of clearance underneath. And that clearance is good for a property like mine. However, if you're taking this out in the woods, be aware that you can only go through about 8 inches of water with this, and that's at a slow crawl. Because since it's electric, you do not want any water getting up near the batteries. Let's check out this winch a little bit more. When operating the winch, you need to go around here to the side, in this little opening right here. You can see the winch right there. There's a dial on the side of it. You need to turn that backwards for free spool. Once you're on free spool, of course, you can pull it out. And it has a poly rope for the winch cable. There is no button for this up near the front to retract it, and there is no remote. So to pull it back in, you've got to sit in it and reel it back in. Okay, we've also got an adjustable windshield here, which you can obviously prop up for airflow through it. And it does have this kind of quick connect system here where you can pop off the windshield if you want to. But it doesn't quick connect on this bottom one, so you have to undo this little bolt right here. It's got pretty good visibility out of the front windshield, although you get some reflection from these stickers, but it's not bad. There's some space up here between the roof and the windshield, and I've driven this in the rain, and I've had zero rain actually come in on me. And that's because this roof has this nice drain at the edge of it, which does have some holes that let out the water in strategic places. But you want to keep these little drain holes clear. I can see already that there's some debris that's already built up in them. Okay, let's go for a ride and I'll talk about how the drive is. Of course, since it's electric, you barely hear anything. We're gonna come down here, we're gonna go over some logs, which is pretty easy. You can only hear this little high-pitched whine, and then of course, the rattles that you're gonna have on any off-road vehicle. Right now I'm getting a slight rattle just on the dumper bed, but any UTV I've owned has that same rattle on the dumper bed. Suspension's pretty good. This property is fairly rough, and I just went over a ditch right there. Now this thing is pretty tall. I've got a ton of headroom in here. I'm 5'10", and you can be about 6'6" and still fit in this thing with no problem. Now the top speed on this is 40 miles an hour. I will never reach that on my property, and I might do that test on my neighbor's property in the future. But I'm cruising along at 10 to 15 miles an hour. So we've got this mound of dirt here that's, you know, maybe a foot tall, and that's to stop water from washing out my bridge, and I just creep right over it. So easy. But hopefully this thing would go over a 12-inch mound of dirt. No problem. Now I have noticed those running boards on the sides. I don't know if those are actually 9.8 inches above the ground. Because driving this, I have picked up a lot of debris that gets caught in them. Now let's get a little bit of speed on this thing, and then I'll talk about the brakes. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Going toward the barn, about 20, 22, that's all I want to do. Let's get back over to the other property, and I'll talk about the good, the not so great, and the ugly. You can see I put a total of 5 miles on it since I got it, and 0.6 of a mile in doing this review. In driving around doing the review, I've used about 2% of the battery. Okay, let's do good news first, and then bad news, and then I'll do a summary at the end. Good news, this thing drives like a dream. It's got great suspension, the acceleration is amazing, and that electronic power steering is unbelievable. It's super sensitive and very responsive. Although I do wish the turning radius was a little bit tighter on it. I absolutely love the fact it's got a backup camera, but I could do without the reverse beep. The inside of the dump bed is metal, and that's huge, especially for durability out here on a homestead. It's not some molded plastic garbage. It's solid welded metal. And it feels pretty thick, although I don't know what gauge it is. The tall tires and the good ground clearance help me to get through my woods and roll over those big branches that have fallen out of my trees. Sometimes they're hidden and there's no other way around, so I can just crawl over them. The winch is strong on this. I did pull out my Toro Titan mower. I got that Toro Titan stuck in that ditch down there and had to bring this and winch it out. That mower weighs about 800 pounds. This did it with no problem. And I love having a winch on a UTV. That's actually going to be very handy. I've actually used it twice, once for the Toro and once to get something off my trailer. The little features like the tow hooks in the front and the tie downs in the bed are really nice additions, and I'm glad they did that. I like the removable windshield because I live in a hot, humid area and getting airflow is really important. I like the fact that it's super quiet. If you are a hunter, this is a great option. especially for packing in and packing out in some difficult to get to areas. If you're hunting deer or elk, it's not going to spook them like a loud gas-powered UTV would. And there's a lot of little other features I like the roof drain. And of course, the biggest pro for me is it's electric, and that means I can charge it from my solar system. I finish work for the day, I pull it into the barn, I plug it in. Come out the next day, it's fully charged for me to use. Okay, let's talk about a few things that are odd or not so great. And one thing are the running boards. Now, I get that they're kind of there for protection or for shorties getting out, but I'm 5'10", and I actually just step right over them. And as I mentioned earlier, stuff does get caught on them as I'm driving through. So with the design, they can certainly improve this right here. This is kind of where everything gets caught, beside the fact that they are too low. So just integrate this brace into this pipe here to prevent things from getting caught on it. One thing that's a challenge is getting in here and free spooling that winch. Now they made a little cut on the side here, but it is still a little bit of a challenge. And for these models, there is actual gear oil that you need to change, and that change happens frequently. There is a 3-month interval on changing the gear oil in these. That's in the service manual. 3 months is hardly any time at all. But it's 3 months or 1,800 miles. That's a lot of distance. So I don't know who's driving 1,800 miles in one of these in that amount of time. I did forget to mention something earlier in the video about the features, and that is the warranty on this. For the batteries, it has a 36-month warranty. For the rest of the vehicle, it has a 12-month warranty. Okay, something for you that might be either a pro or a con is that you can connect this to an app. I know a lot of people don't like to do that, me included. But you don't need the app to do any of the operations on it. You saw me use the touchscreen earlier to manipulate things. Something that's also a little odd with an electric vehicle is that you cannot push down or mash down the accelerator for the first 300 miles. That's a lot of miles. And also for the first 200 miles, you cannot slam on the brakes. Now I get there's a wearing in period for a lot of things, but if you buy an electric vehicle from, say, I don't know, Tesla, you better be able to slam on the brakes right away or hit the accelerator. Those are safety features. If I'm going here on the property at 15 miles an hour and my cat runs in front of me, I'm certainly going to slam on the brakes. But I hope she doesn't run in front of me in the first 200 miles. So just be careful and keep it slow for that amount of time. Don't slam on that accelerator or the brakes. This next one that's a little challenging or odd is that you can only go through 8 inches of water. Now, I understand it. It's electric, it's lithium iron phosphate. But if you're using this for hunting or on a very large property, be aware if you're crossing streams that those streams can only be very shallow. Something I've run into also is a slight delay on drive. I've pushed on the accelerator and it's not gone anywhere. It's been in drive, parking brake off, and I pushed it down, didn't do anything. Pushed it down again, didn't do anything. And then I just eased into it and then it started to move. And it doesn't happen every time, so maybe it's those computer brains talking to each other in there and getting the power to the wheels. Another thing that's a slight concern is that that front winch cable is not a cable. It's not a metal cable. It's a poly rope. Now, I'm sure they did look at the rating for it, but here in sunny Texas, I hope that stays completely covered all the time and the sun doesn't start to eat it, because poly ropes don't do well here. If they could replace it with a metal cable, that would be awesome. I'm sure their rating is correct on that poly rope per the manufacturer that they got it from, but I'm not sure I'm going to test out the full capability and the poundage of that rope. Okay, the last two things are the ugly ones. Okay, so the first ugly thing are the doors. I'm not a big fan. First of all, there's no exterior latch. You've got to reach in and try to feel around for it. But here's the one thing that is not good. You can see how hard I'm slamming that. You really got to slam it. So it needs some adjustment on the catch. There's been a couple of times where I've closed it. I've thought it's closed and then I've started the vehicle and it's popped open. So I think some re-engineering of the catch and the latch is really important. Also, I do understand the cutout on the door here for the charging port, so you obviously can close the door while it's charging. But the shape of the door, while it looks cool, doesn't really match up with the frame at all. As an architect, design is my thing, and having these odd gaps everywhere is kind of strange. But that's an aesthetic thing and that's no big deal. It's the latch which is my concern, especially since I've used it and the door has flown open when I've driven it. Okay, the last point is the brakes. And in my opinion, they are not good. When you saw me earlier hitting that speed of 20 plus miles an hour and putting on the brakes, I had to really stand on them to get the thing to stop. And I'm not supposed to hit them that hard. So you have to leave yourself an incredibly long distance for stopping. And I did have this up to about 30 miles an hour last week. And honestly, I was a little scared of the brakes. I looked down at the rotors, and even though they're vented, that's cool, but they seem really thin and the calipers seem pretty small, especially for this weight. I think they need to look at engineering some bigger brakes. Okay, my overall first impression of the KANDI Cowboy e10k is it's really good. I like it, it's fast, it steers really well, it's got some awesome features. The power dump bed and the winch are really big deals for me here on the property, and it's all electric. I can charge it from my solar system, which is awesome. When I received it, it had about 96% on the battery. I've used it for 2 weeks, just doing little jobs here and there, towing that mower out, towing the thing off my trailer, or winching the thing off my trailer, whatever it was, and I'm still only at 61%, I think it was. That's really good. Now the company, KANDI America, has a few things to work on, like the doors and the brakes, but I respect a company who wants honest feedback. So kudos to them. Okay, stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on all notifications so you can see video 2. And like I said, that's gonna take a couple months because I really want to test this thing. In that video, we're gonna talk about battery life, we're going to talk about battery charging off my solar system, and if those numbers for charging hours are correct. We're going to show it pulling, we're going to show it winching, we're going to show it dumping. Everything that I do here on the property, we're going to use it for. We're going to put it on video for you. And I'm not going to be gentle with it. I'm going to use it how I use my equipment, which it needs to be rugged. If you have any questions, please leave them for me in the comment section below. Now go check out this video right here, which is a great video about our home solar system. Have a beautiful, blessed day. See you next time.